Hi everyone, I'm Aaron. Today I'm going to share with you one of the most life-changing things about being a Christ follower. Welcome to Unapologetics. One of the most life-changing things. What is it I want to know about being a Christ follower? And I'm not going to say Christian because that word's got too much baggage with it and too much, loosey-goosey nonsense. What is it about being a Christ follower that is so life-changing? So here's the thing. It's forgiving others. Forgiving others. And seeking forgiveness for that matter. But forgiving others is one of the most life-impacting things that you can do when you come to this knowledge, this trust, this faith in Jesus as Christ. It's one of the hardest things. It's one of the most rewarding things. And sometimes it's one of the most frustrating things as you say, I don't want to forgive them. They're guilty. But stick with me on this and you'll see where we're going. All right, so picture this in the book of Matthew, chapter 18, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 18, verses 20 and 21. Picture, the disciple Peter. He walks up to Jesus and he's like, dude, if somebody in the group sins against me, how many times do I need to forgive them? 7 times? So clearly somebody had been irritating Peter. I wonder which one of the disciples was irritating him. But anyway, so somebody was irritating Peter, and he says, Jesus, 7 times? Which is a good number, right? Many of us would say, no, I'm not forgiving you at all, and we walk away. So Peter here is far and above us already with 7 times. Poke me in the eye 7 times, and I'm forgiving you, right? And not on the 8th time. And Jesus says, well, Peter, let me tell you what, not just 7, but 70 times 7. And Jesus isn't saying 490. He's meaning a lot. So when somebody sins against you, and in this particular passage, Peter was talking about within the followers of Jesus. If someone sins against you, how many times do you forgive? Jesus says, dude, a lot. 70, almost infinite, if you want to think of it that way. Now this really is one of the most life-changing parts about being a Christ follower. It's one of the most impacting things and has the most traction for your daily life out as you're going through work or school or recreation with your neighbors. Boy, often with your neighbors or with your family members. Forgiveness is huge. Now, let's go through this. This whole forgiveness thing really fits in with all of what Jesus is saying. This really meshes well with his entire message. I mean, if you want to think of it in terms of Jesus' brand, forgiveness is one of the hallmarks, one of the core values of Jesus and his brand in the world. Okay? Because what Jesus is saying here is that people who follow him, Christ followers, disciples, Christians, are under an obligation to share, to show, to offer the same mercy to others that they have received from God. Right? When we come to this saving knowledge of Christ, faith, all of that, however you want to run that out, when you come to that point, God forgives your rebellion, my rebellion, our turning away and thinking that we're God, right? And forgives all of that nonsense. And then turns that back and says, now that you've received this, you are obliged to give it to other people around you. I mean, we all, now this applies every single day of your life and every single day of my life. Okay, let's go back again to how this let's go back again to how this meshes well with Jesus' whole message. One of the most known parts of Jesus is the Lord's Prayer. And as recorded in the book of Luke, Jesus says, when you pray, pray this way: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as... And forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. So Jesus is telling his followers, when you pray daily, ask God for the forgiveness that you need because of your rebellion, maybe being angry, bitter, unforgiving, hurtful to others, wicked, whatever you want to do. Ask God for forgiveness, and also as we forgive those who sin against us. So this is part and parcel of the disciples' life, of the followers of Jesus. To be a disciple means to be one who's a learner. That's what disciple means, a learner, a follower. In the Jewish context that Jesus is in here, it means someone who will become like the one they are following. So to become like Jesus, y'all, we're going to have to forgive others as they sin against us daily. Go again to the Sermon on the Mount. Maybe you've heard of that. Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus sits up on this hillside and speaks to a lot of people. That's found in the book of Matthew, chapters 5, 6, and 7. And in here, Jesus runs out as he's talking to all of these people sitting there in the afternoon sun, listening to this guy talk. He says, you know what? You've heard it said to hate your enemies and love those who love you. But Jesus turns it on his head and he says, I'm going to tell you that you're going to love your enemies. And pray for those people who persecute you. Pray that they'll be blessed by God. Forgiveness. Loving those who hate you. Oh my goodness. He also goes on to say, if you only love those who love you, if you only say, hey, to those people that you like or you know will talk to you back, you're no different than people who would say they have no faith in this Jesus guy at all. You're no different. So Jesus says, if you're going to follow me, if you're going to be my disciple, if you're going to have this faith that he is Lord, you're going to live like this, in this forgiving way. Now, he goes on, maybe you've heard of this one too, the golden rule. Jesus doesn't call it the golden rule. That's what the Bible translators put the little title on it. Anyway, Jesus says, he says, treat others as you would like to be treated. Right? So if you want to be forgiven, if you would like to be forgiven, forgive others. If you want God to forgive you, you must forgive others. You know what? In fact, Jesus says that a lot of times, is recorded in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. If you do not forgive, Aaron, you will not be forgiven by God. I mean, that's just straight up. So I can't say I'm a Christ follower, I'm a Christian, if I have unforgiveness in my cold little dark heart. Neither can you. Neither can anybody you know. So fact of the matter is, y'all, if we don't forgive, we are not forgiven. That's a hard thing. That's a hard rule given to us by Jesus. That's how important this whole forgiveness is in following Jesus, being a disciple, walking in his way. Forgiveness. So what is forgiveness? Well, forgiveness, first of all, is letting go of our demand for consequences or punishment or justice. What I mean by that is when I forgive the person that, stepped on my toe or cut me off in traffic, I am letting go of my claim to, well, they should be punished, or I should be able to hurt them or punch them or cut them off in traffic. It's letting go from those consequences. And in some ways, on the really big things, I'm letting God take care of it. When someone was to hurt you, letting go of that idea that you should be able to repay them, or that they should do time, or that's God's stuff. Okay, we leave that. When we forgive, we let God do that, or the system here in America, the judicial system, the justice system. We let it take care of that. Now, it doesn't mean that person's not guilty. Forgiving in our heart doesn't mean that person who cut us off in traffic, stepped on our toe, isn't guilty. It means that we are letting go of our demand for consequences and justice. We are walking away from that harm. So in that way, I am laying down, when I forgive, I'm laying down my harm and the weight of that. And that's one of the beautiful things about forgiveness, is that I can drop that weight, carrying that constant demand in my heart for, that person really, they deserve this and that. It doesn't mean they're any less guilty. It means I'm letting that down. Now, of course, forgiveness doesn't mean you forget about it. That whole adage, forgive and forget, that's dumb, right? If you pay somebody to paint your house and they don't, you forgive them, but you don't forget, because like next year when they come back around and say, hey, can I paint your house again? You don't say, well, sure. You say, no. You got to be wise in this, right? So, but forgiveness means we're not carrying that weight of a grudge, that weight of always thinking about it. It's freedom from carrying these heavy loads. And you know what? This is what makes this so life-altering, so life-changing, is that I am free from the grudges. And I'll tell you what, this is hard stuff to do. It takes a lot of effort to be able to forgive, because people do stuff to you all the time. People do stuff to me. I do stuff to other people. We do things, and letting go of that almost hatred of another person is so freeing. I would invite you to be free today from holding grudges, holding anger. You know what? It's like that old adage that says holding a grudge and being vengeful is like drinking poison and hoping the person you hate dies. You know what? That person that cut you off in traffic doesn't even know that you exist. And your hatred of them and anger isn't affecting them at all, but it's affecting you or me. You see how this is working? So Jesus here is giving to us this very practical, very life-altering, life-changing, beauty-inducing, this glorious, life-giving thing of just forgive people. And he also goes on in the Sermon on the Mount. Now this comes at it from the opposite direction. If you know someone's angry at you, before you go to church, go ask them for forgiveness. Go fix it. Go make it right. So, here again, if you know somebody's angry at you, go fix it before you come to church, before you go before God. You're like, man, Jesus, stop messing in my business like this. I want to be angry. And you really want to be angry and hateful and vindictive and holding a grudge forever? That sounds like a great life. So I would invite you today to hear these words of Jesus. In being a Jesus follower, one of the most life-changing parts of it is forgiving other people, forgiving yourself, living this life of freedom from anger and grudges, seeking revenge, giving it to God and saying, God, you just take care of it. I'll leave it in your hands. Because God does take care of justice. Okay? God does take care of things like that. So today, right now, do you have any anger? Anyone in your head that you need to forgive? They're living in your head. Right? Let it go. Pray forgiveness. Now it doesn't come right away, does it? This stuff's hard. But begin today by saying, I forgive them. I release them. And I release myself. I would invite you to pray. God, I pray that you would help me forgive X, Y, and Z because of so and so. And you may have to pray that every day for 3 years, but you know that you're working on it. Forgiveness is one of the most life-altering, life-improving pieces of the Christian faith. So as I end up today, I am going to invite you to embrace forgiveness. Release those you are angry at, those you are holding a grudge against, and be free. Give it to God and know peace. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.